Okay, then let's get started with today's session. Today, right? So, what is our primary agenda, right? Is data warehousing concepts. So, we need to understand the concepts in detail. Probably we'll spend like 2 to 3 hours on data warehousing concepts before we switch on to MicroStrategy tool. So, why data warehousing is important for us to learn, right? So like the input for any reporting tool, right? Any BI tool will be data warehousing. But like, what is data warehousing, and what are the different components we have in data warehousing, and what is the need for having each one of them, right? So that we'll understand as part of coming say 3 sessions. So this will be probably today's agenda. So let's see, like, whatever we can complete in next 15 minutes. Like, if not, probably we'll continue into tomorrow's session. So first we'll talk about data warehousing architecture in detail and what are the different components we have in there, and then try to understand what is data warehouse. And then at last, right, we'll see what are the OLTP and OLAP system, and we try to understand like why we need that to databases in a real-time world. So moving on to the data warehousing architecture, right? So in this particular data warehousing architecture, so probably we have two different things. So one is this particular thing wherein like a diagrammatically, and this is more on like more informative. So we'll just try to understand these two diagrams in order to get like a more understanding onto data warehousing architecture in detail. But what I say is again the same thing. If you don't understand any point, just bring up there only, because this is a key thing. So at first, your interviewer also get started with this concept only, like probably on the data warehousing architecture he might start, or else he might ask differences between your operational systems as well as to your data warehousing. And also so when one request is like, as soon as like I think everyone is joining, so I mean by default, right, it is in unmute. So whenever you talk, just unmute yourself, but like be on mute when you I mean as soon as you join, just ensure that you're on mute. Okay. So now moving on to the data warehousing architecture, the first thing is, so if you look, there are various different words or different terminologies which you need to learn. The first among that is you see operational systems, and from the operational systems you do have a transactional databases. So you look at this, all this particular cylinder symbol, right? So these are the transactional databases, and after which you see ETL tools, and then you do have data warehousing component, and then metadata, then data mart, and then reporting, analysis, or mining tools. So all these things probably we need to understand probably in our next 30-minute session. So I hope like everyone will get into details of each of this particular terminology. So first thing, just try to understand this particular thing. When it comes to operational systems, it is also a transactional systems. So when we say operational or transactional system, so whenever you take any business, so let's take say any specific retail store. Say take for example a JCPenney retail store. So in that particular retail store, right? So what are the different transactions? Just let me know. And what are the different modes you can perform transactions in that particular store? So be it JCPenney or any retail store. So just tell me what are the different modes you can perform transaction. I'm sure everyone knows transaction. What is transaction?
Like purchase, return, debit, credit.
Okay, so be a little bit louder, like your voice is too low, Priya.
Purchases, returns.
Okay, right. You want to purchase something? Yeah, that is a transaction. You want to return something? That is also a transaction. You apply for a like store card, that is a transaction. You cancel your store card, that is also a transaction. right? You pay your like store account balance, that is also transaction. Everything is a transaction, right? So what are the different modes you can perform a transaction? Mode as in what are the different ways you can initiate this transaction? So you want to purchase something, so how can you do in a retail store?
First, we will select the item.
Okay, no, that is fine. You're selecting item, but I want looking more on, like, say you can do that online. That is one way, right? So one is you can do using online. Then how else you can do?
By going to the store, second
By
option.
walking into the store, you can do a transaction. Okay, so two things. One is you can do using online directly in their site, or using some third party site also you can do a transaction, or else you can walk into the store and do a transaction. So on that lines, whenever you do online, so you'll get one particular front end screen, you get one UI screen, right? So on that particular web or on that particular screen, so whatever you do, right, you check in, I mean you check out, then you make transaction, all these things. That is one way. When you go to store also, like whenever you go to the billing, right, so near the billing also, that particular customer executive, what they do is they will have one screen. On that particular screen, they bar that, I mean they scan that particular item, and accordingly a transaction will be processed. So that is what, like all your like online screens, or else you walk into store, even wherever that customer executive is scanning your products, right, even that is also an online system. So all these particular online systems, right, so be it your web or be it the in the store, so these particular things, right, so they are built by a front end tools, they are built by front end technologies, like few of them, right, you can just see that particular list in our next screen. So you can use a PeopleSoft to build it, you can use SAP to build it, you can use Siebel CRM to build it, or Oracle ERP systems to do it, and like Java, .NET, HTML. So there are various different front ends you can design that particular screens. And in that particular screens, whenever you perform any transaction, you buy, I mean you scan any particular product, then what happens is that particular transaction comes and sits in the transactional database. It is going to come and sit in your transactional database. Say on a store, you can do multiple. Say you can visit the store in the morning, again you might visit in a afternoon and evening. So whatever transactions you do, right, so that particular transaction, each and every transaction will store here. So what this particular transactional database does is it is going to store each and every transaction in detail as in, so including what is a timestamp, what is the item you have purchased, what is the quantity, so everything in detail it is going to store in your transactional databases. And this particular databases, transactional databases, are referred as OLTP databases. OLTP databases, online transaction processing system. So online means 24/7. You process any transaction, that transaction has to be processed. And that transaction, where it gets recorded or where it gets stored, means it is going to get stored in the transactional databases. So again, I just repeat this sentence. So whenever you perform any transaction by any mode, that particular transaction comes and gets stored in your transactional databases, which are called as OLTP systems, So everyone clear what is this operational systems and what is this transactional databases?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Swati. Okay, we'll continue. So from here, right? So when we look this particular transactional databases, right? From there, so on the next step, right? You do have ETL tools. So the name, right? If you look at the name, so E means extract, then transform, then load. So what is purpose of this particular tools? Means like, I mean, so some of the popular ETL tools in market are Informatica, Abnisio, then IBM Data Stage, Microsoft SSIS, Talent. So these are like some of the popular ETL tools. The purpose of all these particular tools, right? So what they do is, so E means extract. So now the data is stored in different databases. So once the data is stored in different databases, it is going to extract that particular data. And once it extracts that particular data, it is going to perform transformation. So what does transformation means is changes. It is going to change that data. So why that changes will come back, and then it is going to load at one single repository, which is called as data warehouse, So data warehouse is also a database, but it is capable to store huge volumes of data. So now if you look at here, so this particular database, data warehouse, is referred as OLAP database, online analytical processing database, and this transactional databases are called as OLTP, online transaction processing databases. So now just try to understand here. So whenever we take any system, be it bank, insurance, retail, or manufacturing, healthcare, so you take any particular business, when it comes to the transactional databases, there won't be one single transactional databases. There will be multiple transactional databases. So what happens basically is, so whenever you take any particular business, right, so it has different ways or different departments. So say for example, you take any banking into thing. So basically there will be credit card, there will be mutual accounts, there will be a retail banking, and there will be finance related thing. So what they do is, so each system they design, each transactional system is designed to store data related to specific application. Okay, so all my finance related data come and store in this database. All my credit card related information come and store in this particular database. All my insurance related data come and store in this particular database. So what happens in a real-time application when you take is, so this particular systems, the transactional systems, so you will have multiple systems, multiple as in, so whatever experience I have, right? So when I worked with a few of the banking applications, they had systems from 30 to 40, around 30 to 40 different databases, 30 to 40 different databases. And apart from that, like when you take retail, in the retail also, so there will be different things, like, store related things, then order related information, product related information, and so on. So that particular information again, right, so they reside in different databases, and each database here, it is designed to store application related information. So each database stores only data related to specific application. So once it stores data in these systems, right, so today it might have 30 systems, but tomorrow they may come up with new functionality, and they may introduce another database here. So in this way, so this number of databases here will not be static, or it will not be the same. So every year when they come up with new product or new feature, they might add up a new transactional database, and they might store data. And nowadays what every particular business does is, apart from analyzing their data, they also analyze external data as well. External data as in, so different companies data, right? So from different portals and different things they collect, and they are going to analyze in order to know how the other competitors are performing compared to them, in order to take a better decisions. So now no more the data is restricted to single organization. So every organization wants some external data to analyze. So on that lines, right, so just try to understand here. For example, assume you have 10 different databases, and in 10 different databases, so every column, say for example, I want to store some gender information, assume. So in one of the table, I'm going to store that represent as MALE, and in other one female. In other system, I store as M and then F. And in other system, I may store 0 as 1. 0 indicates male, 1 indicates female. And then the same case, in case of customer amount or like quantity, whatever it is, right? So the format here, right, it might be in dollars, and in other one, right, it might be, this database is pointing to India, it might be in INR, and the other one is pointing to UK, so here it might be in euros. But so assume like every amount here, right, is in different currency, but bottom line, when it has to come and then load into single repository, say assume that particular company's headquarters in US. So what every company CEO or like they sits in US and they want all that figures or numbers to be seen in dollars. So what they do is they have to convert. So all this particular rupees then euros has to be converted, and I mean in other countries also they have a separate database. All that has to be converted and then stored at single repository in unique format. So that is where transformation, what does transformation means is, so whatever data you have here might be in different format. So in order to make that data into unique format, or technically which is called data consistent, in order to make your data consistent, and then apart from that, so at times what happens is, say you are here as a customer, you have done 4 transactions, your 4 transactions will be stored here. But when it comes to your data warehouse, right, so what it does is it is going to sum all your 4 transactions, and then it stores here day X, customer X performed this transaction, the total of that 4 transactions will be stored here. So what does that mean is, here you have detailed level of information, detailed information, whereas in case of data warehouse you are going to have summarized information. You are going to aggregate your data and then store that particular data. And then at your transactional databases, there might be few columns which needs to be what consolidated, or you have to calculate something in order to derive a new column. So here there might be 3 columns, and here you might add like one additional column. Say for example you have unit price, and then you have quantity, and then you have discount. You have 3 different columns, assume for a minute. So using that particular 3 columns, right, so what you want to do is, okay, so let me write that. So you have quantity, then unit price, and then say for example discount. So whenever any particular product is scanned, right, so this is what information you're getting. So say using this, right, I want to derive sales. So how can we derive sales? So you want to buy some product, that product has some price which is a unit price, and they have offered some discount on that particular item which made you to buy more than one quantity. So how do you calculate what is the total amount you have to pay to them? What is the sales? So how do you calculate that using these 3 columns?
Quantity into unit price.
So quantity
Into unit price.
Okay, unit price
Minus discount.
minus discount. Perfect. So yeah, whatever you said, right, that's perfect. So basically what on a price plus discount should be done, and then it has to be multiplied by quantity. Agree? Yes or no, everyone?
Yeah.
So now this is my sales. So in order to have the sales, right, assume you have only these 3 columns at your OLTP systems. So you derive a new column at your data warehouse in order to analyze the sales information, and similarly, right, so there might be say for example a customer date of birth, and based on that you want to find his particular age. So you have only date of birth at your transactional system. So in order to get to your age, right, so what you need to do is you need to take your current date or system date into picture, and then you want to calculate his particular age. So on which, right, I just want year, how many years. So what I do is year of current date minus a year of his particular date of birth, so which gives me his particular age. So what happens basically is at your data warehouse, so there will be some columns that will be derived, that columns. So whatever columns here you have, so on top of it there will be some additional columns derived, which helps the business for analysis, so all this particular work is done by an ETL team. So what ETL team does is, as the data of a business organization stores in multiple transactional databases, they are going to extract data from different transactional databases, and as data will be in different formats or it will not be consistent, so the ETL tools is going to make the data consistent, and they apply various rules or various transformation. So the bottom line is, in order to cleanse the data and make more accurate, and then they are going to load the data into data warehouse. So people who are learning ETL tools, what they learn is they learn this set of transformation. So first thing, they have to establish a connectivity. Once they establish this connectivity, how to transform this data. So when a person who learns Informatica, he learns a set of 20, 25 transformations. Similar the case with any other ETL tools. They have to learn how to transform the data. Once the transformation is done, so again they load into a data warehouse. So at your data warehouse, right? So this data warehouse is a integrated collection. Integrated means it collects data from all the sources. So that's the reason data warehouse is a integrated collection of your transactional data, as well as at times, right, you have some external data, even that external data as well. And this whatever data that is loaded into data warehouse will be input for the reporting tools. So if you look at here, between data warehouse and reporting, right, so there is one more layer which is called as data mart. So this is optional. So every project, right, need not have data mart in place. So every project need not have data marts in place. What is the purpose? We'll just try to understand it. So first thing, just try to understand. Now, when it comes to data warehouse and when it comes to transactional database, I talk about each transactional database, the volume of data, right, will be here like say 100 gigs to 500 gigs when we talk about single transactional database. And when we have multiple, so all these things comes and stores in your data warehouse, that's fine. But now this data warehouse size, right, so what do you think will be the size? So assume here I said 100 GB to 500 GB, and your transactional databases loads or stores data only your most recent data, be it a 1 month data or like 3 months, based on how big is your business. So they ensure that this is a max capability like 500 GB. Some organization loads that data in 2 weeks, some particular thing gets that particular transactions in a month, some other gets 3 months. So here it stores data in 100 to 500 gigs. Whereas in case of data warehouse, right, so what do you think will be the volume of data? Here it will contain all the historical, not 3 months. It stores data for your entire business life cycle. If your business is running for 20 years, it contains 20 years data. 10 years, it contains 10 years data. So any assumption like what is the volume of data that will be present in the data warehouse? Just roughly, I mean, I guess it should not be accurate because every project, it differs.
Uh, terabytes in terabytes.
In terabytes, okay. So others, any others, like you want to provide any inputs?
I think it's in megabytes.
It's in megabytes, okay.
Maybe gigabytes, GB.
Maybe in GB, okay. Fine. So yeah, that's fine. So we have all answers, like, but like people didn't say petabytes, that's fine. So now what happens is in this data warehouse, as I said, it contains all the historical information and it is an integrated data from all the source systems, right? So what it contains basically is, so probably till 2010, 2011, right? So when we talk about like 5 terabytes, 10 terabytes, it was huge data. But like with the volume of data that is coming post 2010, right? So this particular data warehouses sizes has increases drastically. And then probably I say now even a medium scale organization, right? So they have data close to say 50 terabytes and so on. And very big organizations, they have data in petabytes. They have data in petabytes. So now, so nowhere like 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte is considered as huge volumes of data. So every organization, you take a mid scale, it is going to have minimum like around 50 terabytes. And when you take a small organizations, they are going to have data in petabytes, because whatever data, I mean, as per like research, right, what they found is till 2010, whatever data that was collected, that was used in the business was say less than 30%. So whatever data that is collected in last 6 to 7 years is more than 70% of their business data. So the data is growing drastically with like various social networking sites and like other particular things in place in order to understand the competition and something. So on that lines, right? So every data warehouse what you see is you have data in petabytes now in nowadays. And now to retrieve data from this data warehouse, which is storing petabytes. So when we say data warehouse, so it is also a database where here you don't have one table, because once you integrate data from all systems and you are going to load data into data warehouse, here there might be based on again your project 100 tables, 200 tables, 500 tables as well. So here data will be present in multiple tables, and then whatever the user wants information, right, that data will not exist in one table, it is going to present in multiple tables. So now what happens is whenever you want to retrieve data from data warehouse, then like which is a petabytes of information, when I run my report, it has to hit this database in order to get the data. So what happens is in order to retrieve data from this data warehouse, which is containing huge volumes of data, which might be slow. The reason is it contains huge volumes of data. So for that particular reason, so what they have come up is they have come up with data marts. So what is data mart is? Data mart is a subset of data warehouse data. Data mart is a subset of data warehouse data which stores data related to a specific subject, as in here it stores customer information, here it stores product information, in other one it stores information related to geography and so on. So whenever any report wants to analyze geographical information, so instead of hitting data warehouse, it can hit data mart. Whenever someone wants to analyze product information, they can hit another data mart. And this particular, as we said, this is a subset of data wherein you can, I mean, here it contains 20 years data, but business always is ensuring they analyze only 2 years data. You can apply certain conditions to store only limited data what user want to analyze. So in this way, so now assume this particular data mart which you have created is of 1 GB or 2 GB. So now when I run my report and then access this data warehouse, which is petabytes, in the same thing, when I run a report and when I hit data mart, right, which will be faster? So the same information is present here in your data warehouse, whatever information is required for your report, as well as it is present in your data mart. So if your report hits data warehouse and if your reports hits data mart, right? So which will be faster?
Data mart.
Data mart.
Obviously data mart, because here it has only limited data. So when it hits this one, right, it will be 10 times faster than your data warehouse. So for that particular reason, so based on your particular reporting analysis, you found that okay, certain subject related information is accessed more by your users. So on that lines, what you can do is you can configure data mart. On top of data mart, you can generate reports. So few reports you can generate from data marts and few reports you can generate from the data warehousing as well. So now once you have this data warehouse and then data marts design, so this, in order to load this, I mean data warehouse and then data marts, there will be a separate database team. So you'll have a database. So when my database is Teradata, so for that Teradata, you'll have Teradata developer, Teradata data modelers, and Teradata DBAs. So as how we have MicroStrategy architect, MicroStrategy developer, admin, here also you'll have database DBAs, database developers, database modelers. So these are the three different roles. So their purpose is to design this one and then create the different data marts and ensure your database is up and running, and security, all these things is done by your DB team. So once this is done, then what we do is we are going to configure our reporting tools. So because our reporting tools need to fetch data from data mart or it needs to fetch data from data warehouse, wherein at first point what we do is, so we are going to configure the connection which is called ODBC connection to connect to any database, right? You require open database connectivity, so for which you establish a connection to your databases, and once you establish connection to your database, then what you do is on top of it, as we discussed, we are going to create reports, we are going to create dashboards. We are going to create reports and dashboards. So our reporting layer, right? So comes as a presentation. The reason it is presentation is, so all this your user don't need it. So whatever is happening here, so data is collected here, and on top of it you are creating a reports and you are going to present that to user, or users are going to access your reports which is in production. So hence we call this reporting layer as a presentation layer, as a presentation layer. The same particular diagram, so we'll just try to understand some more things in detail. So when I said operational system, so this is where the source system, so it might be your CRM system, ERP system, like it might be any legacy system like mainframe or any online, right, e-commerce, or it might be any external data which is a purchased market data in order to analyze the competitors, which they get in different formats. So and then at this particular source system, these are the different technologies which we have, I mean we can use, and then there are many to add here as well. So then under the ETL, we discussed extract, transformation, and load. So what it does is it is going to cleanse the data, because now it brings data from your source systems and from the external data, and between the source system data will not be consistent, and when you take external data, so obviously there will be a lot of data inconsistency between this. So it is going to cleanse the data and then filter whatever data, I mean whatever data that is required, then standardize values, decode values, apply various business logics, then householding, merge records, and so on. So all this as the responsibility of a ETL. So in market there are different power, I mean ETL tools like Informatica Power Center is one leading tool, and then Oracle product is Warehouse Builder, then you have SQL Crypts, and to list some of the popular are IBM Data Stage, and then Ab initio, and Microsoft SSIS. So these are the other, and Pentago is another, Talent is another tool which are popular in the ETL. And once this transformation is done, they are going to load the data into the data warehouse. And once the data is loaded into data warehouse, right, so we are going to establish a connection to a presentation layer, which is to our reporting tools. So once you have this one, right, then what we do is we are going to, I mean there are again various different tools like MicroStrategy, ClickView, Tableau, Cognos, SAP BO, Brio, Burst. So many different tools. So the purpose of them is to create different reports and dashboards, create different reports and dashboard. So who works on this particular source systems basically is your front end teams. Front end as in people are into Java or like .NET, Siebel CRM, Salesforce CRM, PeopleSoft. They are going to work on this particular source system. And then on the ETL, your ETL developers like Informatica developer, data stage developer, and so on. And this your data warehouse layer is worked by your database team, and then comes this particular presentation layer where you will be responsible, or as a MicroStrategy developer, so your work is on building the reports and dashboards. So any questions on this architecture before we move further on the next topics, right? So if you have, anyone has any question, you can ask me.
Yes. What's about the analytic application here?
Can you be a little bit louder?
What's about the analytic application?
So analytical application will be this one. So whatever data warehouse you have, right? So this data warehouse will be used for OLAP or online analytical processing. So once the data is stored here, what you do is you use this for the analytical needs. So hence you call this system as a online analytical processing system.
Like external data is a part of operational system, and like you said that it's going to be used for analysis, right? So that data also is going to be extract and transform, or
Right, yes. So because now organizations, right, so they want to see basically whenever, like, I mean, a lot of social networking sites you have, right? So basically everything is free for you. But like, do you think that all the social networking sites are running a, like, I mean, charity as such, and then you're using them, or do you think like on top of it there will be some business that will be happening?
We think the business, like the not only the business but the other part also.
Right. So basically, whenever you do whatever you do on Facebook, whatever you do on any social networking site, right? And then you have a lot of different online sites which stores the market and then the population information and so on. So they maintain that particular updated information, and basically what they do is that particular all your particular social networking sites and so on. So they sell the data to different companies, and what they do is, so they send that particular data in form of different forms, be it in Excel, be it in some database and so on. So they sell to companies. So what they do is whatever data they collect, right? So they also integrate with your data warehouse, or say with your other systems data plus your external data, and that data will be stored in your data warehouse on which your analysis can be performed, so that your end users can understand your transactional data as well as the external data that is collected. Swati, is that clear or any question?
Yeah, it's clear, sir.
So others, please respond. So you have any questions? Yes, no. So if you're good,
Yeah,
also you can just
I'm
unmute
okay.
and tell you're
Yeah,
good.
I'm okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for confirming that. So now a question to you. So in that case, you don't have any questions, right? One question from me is, so now you have a transactional systems, and then you do have an OLAP, or your data warehouse is a OLAP system, right? So now this transactional databases I called as OLTP database, and this one I'm referring as a OLAP database. Can you think about some differences between transactional databases to your OLAP database? So it might be right, it might be wrong. Don't worry. Just tell whatever inputs you have, because most of the interviews they start with this. State the differences between OLTP databases to OLAP database.
I think OLTP database is hugely referred, like mostly referred like to pull reports than the OLAP.
Uh, so
So
you
here
okay?
OLTP is used by the customers or users, and OLAP are used by the business.
Okay, good. Okay,
Mm,
then what else you can think about?
OLTP is like based on like online transactional, whereas OLAP is only for like is to analyze the what are the processing is going on between like the online data going to be modified.
Okay, what else you can think about? Others, please provide your inputs as well.
OLAP data is used for our reporting purpose, the format and the specified things.
Okay,
Whereas OLTP is a transaction, just the transaction details only used by our customer or
okay. So it is used by customer, and the other one is used for the business user for analysis purpose. Okay. What else? How about volumes of data? Where the volumes of data will be?
OLTP are small data, and OLAP are huge data.
So OLTP has less volumes of data, and OLAP has a huge volumes of data. Okay. So where you'll have more number of users?
OLTP.
OLTP you'll have
OLTP.
more number of users because the customers.
OLTP.
Yeah, right. Okay. Then what else you can think about? So in your transactional systems or your OLTP systems and OLAP systems, so where you'll have very detailed information and where you'll have the summarized or aggregated information.
OLTP has a detailed information.
Detailed information, like on a day you do 10 transactions, the 10 transactions will
Yeah.
be recorded there, and all
Yes.
that 10 will be summarized and it will be stored at one place. I mean, it's a one single record in data warehouse. So it contains a aggregated information. Okay. So any other points you can think of? Anyone?
సరే క్లాస్ వింటున్నా మళ్ళీ చేస్తా క్లాస్ అయ్యి చేస్తారు ఉంటా.
Again, I request guys, when you're talking something person, please mute yourself. It is not like I don't.
I'm so sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't see.
no. Accidentally it happened. Like for
Yeah.
no, for everyone. It is not I'm pointing you. So for everyone, like from next time I'm telling. So that's fine. It happens with me also. At times I feel I'm on mute and I talk. So that's all. Okay. So coming to first point, right? So can you repeat? I think it's Priya, right? So you said something, right? So OLTP is used more for
Customer
reporting
users.
compared to OLAP, right?
OLTP is used more when compared to OLAP, and this has less volumes of data.
Which has less volumes of data?
OLTP.
OLTP. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Let's talk about or debate on that particular point, because that is a very important point. So why we need to have two different databases? One is OLTP database and the other one is OLAP database. So you mentioned this is used more for reporting. So this is not mainly used for reporting. Your transactional databases are mainly designed to run your business as in, say, my store has to be, I mean, so whenever I walk into store, I can purchase something and that has to be recorded, and whenever I do some online transaction, it has to be recorded. So this, your transactional databases or your operational systems, they majorly focus on running your business. Running your business is storing your transaction detail by detail. So whatever whatever transaction you are doing, that transaction has to be captured in detail. So that is the main purpose of your transactional databases. So whereas they have come up with this OLAP databases, the main purpose of this OLAP database is used for analytical purpose. Analytical purpose as in, so from there only you need to understand reporting is performed on data warehousing. The reason is, so whenever you need to analyze something, you require some trend. Trend means in last 6 months, how the data is flowing. Say for example, I've introduced one new plan in my particular store. So I've introduced one offer in my particular store. How that particular offer is running, I want to see what are my top 10 items and how their particular trend is going in last 12 months, right? How the trend is happening from current year to last year. So all these things I want to analyze on my report. So do you think that information will be present at your transactional systems?
No.
So transactional systems, as I
I
said,
think so.
yeah, as I said, it stores data for like 15 days or 1 month or like 3 months maximum. So like they provide a limit, like say 100 GB or 500 GB. And if my business transactions are very huge and they're having 500 GB in like 2 weeks time, they just maintain only 2 weeks data here. But whereas your complete history will be maintained in your data warehouse. So just remember, so these are used for running the business, and these databases are used for analyzing the business. These are used for analyzing the business. So clear, Priya, on that point. So which one is used for reporting?
OLTP.
OLTP or OLAP?
I'm sorry.
No. Which databases is used for reporting?
OLTP.
OLTP.
OLAP or OLTP?
OLTP.
OLTP. Again, Rajesh. Okay. So Priya changed her answer and you came back to the same answer. Okay. So now OLTP you said, Rajesh, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So OLTP holds data for how many days?
More 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, 2 to 3 weeks. Let's put 3 weeks time. Okay. So now say for example, I want to understand my, simple 2, 3 questions I'm asking. So say for example, in this year, right, what are the top 10 products in my store or bottom 10 selling products? So I want to offer this with other like particular products so that someone can buy as a combination. So I want to find top 10 products and then bottom 10 products in last quarter. So where do you have that information?
OLAP.
OLAP. Okay, so I want to hear from Rajesh.
It's OLTP, right?
It's the data
It
will
is
be present in OLAP. Okay. Say for example, I want to understand so how my particular product is running for last 6 months. So I have like few 10 new items that has been added to my inventory in my store, and I want to see performance of that items in last 6 months. So that I've started initially with one store. If it runs fine, I want to have that inventory in all other stores as well. So where that information will be there. So I want to see last 6 months trend.
It will be in
is
OLAP.
it in OLAP?
You should tell me again. You should not have doubt.
Yeah, OLAP.
It will be in OLAP. Okay,
OLAP.
so I want to compare my current year sales to my previous year sales. So I want to just ensure like this year how I'm doing when compared to last year. So based on that, I will target for my remaining months. So where can I find that analysis? I want to compare my current sales to my previous year sales.
Current sales means previous sales means it's OLAP only, right?
Previous 1 year sales means it will be in OLAP. So all this information is present in OLAP, right? Not in OLTP, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
So which one will be used for reporting? Not just tell me.
For reporting is OLTP.
Reporting means all these questions, whatever I asked, right? These are part of reporting only. So you want to display top 10 items.
For the reporting, it's a OLAP.
OLAP, not OLTP, right?
Yeah, not OLTP. Sorry.
So clear now.
Yeah. Clear.
So anyone
Just
have still question on that one? So we use OLAP for reporting needs. So anyone has any question on that point?
Clear.
Clear.
Yes.
Okay. So just to reiterate whatever you said is your OLTP systems are used for running the business, that is by capturing transaction by transaction data in detail, whereas your data warehouse is used for analytical purpose as it contains the historical information. Most of your reporting will be done on the data present in the data warehouse. And this operational systems, right? So these are accessed by the customers, and this particular data warehouse is accessed by the business users. And transactional databases contains less volumes of data, whereas your data warehouses contains huge volumes of data in petabytes, and here it contains data in 100 gigs to 500 gigs. And the number of users, the number of concurrent users means the same time accessing that application. Here you'll have more number of concurrent users, and here you'll have less number of concurrent users. And then the next one is when you take about transaction system databases, here all operations you can insert, means someone is purchasing something, that might be an insert. someone wants to update his particular store card information. So he moved from X address to Y address. So that is an update. So you want to delete certain things. So you want to cancel some product. So that particular deletion, right? So, or he want to see his particular balance, that is select. So here all operations are performed. Like you can insert data, you can update data, you can delete data, you can select data. But this particular data warehouses are designed to just access the data. Here you don't have option to edit it or update it, because if you update, right, then the problem is, I mean, it loses that analysis. Here, even though there is a lot of duplication data, you say for example a person has applied for a loan, I want to see his particular history. So I want to store his previous address X date to Y date, current address X date to Y date, and so on. So that entire history has to be present here in order for me to do analysis to take a decision. So here data will be duplicated or redundant, but still it's fine. So here only select, but here in case of this, all the operations are performed. Okay. So now with that particular point, right, so we should be good to understand what is data warehouse, and then what are the differences between OLTP to OLAP. We'll quickly go through that particular points. So before we go there, right, so so basically when do you think this data warehouse came into market? From which year it was there in business? Just roughly a number, that's it.
2000?
1950s, 1960s? Huh?
1989.
1989. Oh, so you are very accurate. So Google, or like you know that before?
The MicroStrategy started in 1989, right? So that's why.
That's why, okay, data warehouse also in 1989. Okay.
Yeah.
So good guess or good assumption, but whatever he said is also right, like in 1980s only. So that is where, before that, there is no concept of data warehouse. So every system was running on legacy systems, primarily onto IBM mainframes. So that is where like they use this IBM mainframes for all this particular purpose. So post which only in order to store this data and then analytical purposes and so on. So that is where the concept of data warehouse came in. And there is a person called Bill Inmon, and he is the first to define data warehouse. And post which you might have heard probably out of your sessions on your academics or so on, Ralph Kimball is other person who contributed heavily to data warehousing. So you have heard anytime these two words, Bill Inmon, Ralph Kimball? No?
No.
No, that's fine. That's okay. So, but like data warehouse was first defined by Bill Inmon, and he's considered as a father of data warehouse, and he has provided basically his own definition to data warehouse. So what is that a definition he has given to data warehouses? Data warehouse is a subject oriented, integrated, non-volatile, time variance collection of data. So when we say data warehouse, in simple we say data warehouse is a database which stores huge volumes of data. But like to be more precise, or as per his definition, what he wants to say is data warehouse is a subject oriented, integrated, non-volatile, time variance collection of data to support business decisions. So why it has to be created? Why this data warehouse? So just remember, data warehouse is not a product. It is a model which has to be designed. So from the ETL team, right, when they load it, so before they load the data, a model has to be in place. So this model is created by data modelers, and whenever they create that data model, they have to take few things into consideration in order to like your data warehouse to be more efficient. So what are those particular rules is it has to be subject oriented, integrated, non-volatile, and then time variance. So what does that mean is, so we'll come back to this. These are just the definitions which we discussed. But if you look here, so at the OLTP systems, so you do have finance as separate database, marketing as separate database, inventory as database. So you do have different OLTP systems, but what you're doing is you're just combining them. As we discussed, you integrate them and store at one place. So when you store at one place, you don't store based on application. Your OLTP systems are based on application. But as I said, your particular data warehouse should be a subject oriented. What is a subject oriented means? So you have customer in finance, customers in marketing, customers in inventory. And so you want to combine that customer into one particular table and store all that particular application related as one single table. Same the case with geography, same the case with product, same the case with time, and so on. So your data warehouse should be designed in such a way that it stores data based on subjects. Your OLTP is application, whereas your data warehouse is stored data based on the subjects. And it integrated means, like we are bringing data from 10 systems, 30 systems, and loading or storing at one single place. That is called integrated. Non-volatile, this is what we discussed. We should not update the data. We should not update. Non-volatile means non-changing. So you should not update your data. That is, like, you just first load the data on top of it, which you select. You should not update, you should not delete. So that is what non-volatile, because when it is non-volatile, it will be good for the decision making. And similarly, time variance. Your data should be stored in the table such a fashion that you can retrieve the data in like daily, monthly, quarterly, and so on. So what does that mean is, so I want to get like this quarter sales versus previous quarter sales, this month versus prior month. I want to do some analysis. So my data warehouse should be capable to show me data or to represent data based on different frequencies like monthly, quarterly, yearly, so that it will be easy for analysis. So all these particular 4 things is considered before designing a data warehouse. If your data warehouse is designed by considering all this particular feature, it will be more efficient for accessing the data. So whenever someone asks what is data warehouse, instead of stating like data warehouse is a collection of like integrated systems data, you can define data warehouse is a subject oriented, integrated, non-volatile, time variance collection of data. And then this is already we discussed, a data warehouse is a relational database that is designed for query and analysis purpose. So it usually contains historical data derived from transactional data, but it can also include data from other sources, that is an external systems. So clear on this point, what is data warehouse?
Yeah, it's clear, sir.
Okay, so now before we end up the session, right? So this
Clear, thank you.
Okay, so one last concept for a couple of minutes, whatever you said, right? So we'll discuss on that point, OLTP and then OLAP systems. So of which there is like a technical word, normalized and denormalized. So that we'll discuss tomorrow as part of tomorrow's session. This is the key thing, because you need to understand. People who might already know, that's fine. So others who doesn't know will try to understand normalization and denormalization, because we need to understand more how data is organized at OLAP system, because this will be the source for our PI tool. So the other points are very self-explanatory. So OLTP systems are used to run the business, whereas your OLAP systems are used to analyze the business. And then in case of OLTP system, it contains a real-time data, means because it contains transaction data. So that is where the real time. And here, right, so based on certain frequency, daily it loads, or in few applications it loads monthly. So here you don't see most current data, but again, data will be loaded. It generally, you see most of the organization loads data like daily one time. So during the night cycle, right, so or whatever transaction performed from morning till evening, that gets loaded during the nightly job. And then volatile means, here we said all actions, insert, update, delete, everything is possible here, whereas this systems you just select, you don't update or delete. And here it contains current data, it contains the entire historical data. So this is for wider audience like customers, and mainly it is driven through transaction. And whereas this is limited user, or that is accessible only by the business user, and the query response should be fast, because here you deal with like millions of data in this particular case. And here, as we discussed, it will be say 100 gigs to 500 gigs, wherein that will be considered as a small to large, and here it will be in terabytes to petabytes based on how big the organization is. So these are like the primary differences between OLTP and OLAP. And this question is asked in many interviews. To start up, they'll ask you this one only: what are differences between OLTP to OLAP? So on that lines, we discuss all these things. But tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll just start with what is normalization, what is a denormalization, and from there, right, we'll try to understand in case of OLAP how the data is modeled, or what are the tables. Like whenever in case of traditional databases, we call tables. So but here basically the tables are classified into different types, like dimension tables, fact tables, aggregate tables, factless fact tables, and then the modeling. So in case of OLTP, you might have heard something called entity relationship modeling, but whereas in case of OLAP, you do a modeling called dimension modeling, which deals with star schema, snowflake, and so on. So all these things, right? And then you need to familiarize with terms called dimension, fact. So all these things probably will complete in our next two sessions. So that probably on yeah, Thursday or Friday, we'll see. So after that, right, we'll get started with the MicroStrategy tool. So okay, so that's all I have agenda for today's session. So probably if anyone has any questions, right, I'll take those questions before we wind up our session.